Very warm welcome to Space, where we hold our Monday night meditation for Brixton Buddhist community. So very warm welcome, especially if it's your first time. We've just been coming along for a couple of times. Very warm welcome to the evening. So my name's Mike Junara. I'm an ordained member of the Triratna Buddhist order, and I'm one of the teachers down here for Brixton. I'm here with Jack. Jack's doing the text, just trying to keep himself warm with a cup of tea. So yeah, it'd be really good to know who's out there in time-honoured fashion. Just write your name into the chat. Let us know who's out there. That'd be great. And what we've got for you tonight is a two-part evening. So we've got this two-part evening where we're going to be streaming live here from Space. And then all you need to do is just click for the second part of the evening and you're going to the Brixton Community Lounge. There'll be a chance for toilet tea break, and then you can join in the discussions in the second half. So we kicked off a series last week called What We Really Want and What's Getting in the Way. So so if you didn't see it, you could still check back on the YouTube channel, because I kind of gave a broad overview. And what's getting in the way? I gave a broad overview of the series of what we were going to be doing, which is basically this deep sense of yearning that we all have for these states of our heart and mind, for peace, love, contentment, energy, confidence, and that is what we're trying to uncover in meditation. What we're trying to, what we are giving kind of, what we kind of dwell on, we become. There's this saying that what we dwell on, we become. But there's these habitual mental states that get in the way. There's these habitual tendencies which get in the way of those much more expansive states that we all want to inhabit, all of us. So it's useful to map those states out, those habitual tendencies, so you can kind of just recognise them. And something about recognising them allows them to release their kind of power on your mind. They release their kind of grip, and you can kind of move into more expansive states. Yeah, but first they need to be recognised. So we'll do a breathing space. We'll do a little breathing space. I'll do the shout outs after the breathing space. We'll do a little breathing space just to arrive from whatever kind of day we've had. It's been quite a stunning day here in London. Really bright sun, warm. I had the window open. It was so warm, and yet there are still these remnants of snow around. You know, stunning kind of day. But nonetheless, it's still a Monday, which often means for a lot of us are kind of gearing up. So let's see if we can just really arrive, yeah, in whatever kind of day we've had, we can just arrive and do this short breathing space together. So if you're happy to, just closing your eyes in whatever surface you're on. If you're on cushions, that's fine. If you're in a chair, on the sofa, just sitting up under your own steam and trying to get your back quite upright, head poised, up over the shoulders. So we've got this quite alert posture, and then just try to relax within that. Just finding at ease within that quite energized posture. So straight away, just feeling what it's like to have a body. What's the body feel like? So there's some parts of the body that we can feel quite vividly, and others that are not showing up very much. One part of the body that we can invariably feel more strongly is where our body's in contact with the ground. So that's quite a vivid sensation. We can feel that quite strongly. Don't need to do anything about it. We're just feeling that contact with the ground. In a way, feeling the texture of that sensation of contact with the ground. And then all we need to do is just let our legs and lower body from the waist down just kind of relax into that contact. Let's see if we can identify any holding on, any gripping in the thighs, in the lower legs. Just see if we can just let go. And softening also in the tummy. Feeling the tummy moving. The breath. Letting go in the tummy. And then we feel our upper body rising up from this base of support. In the same way, just relaxing, letting go in the shoulders, around the eyes, forehead and mouth. And then just notice ourselves breathing. Don't need to do anything about that. We've been breathing all day. We can just follow those sensations as the rib cage expands with the in-breath and releases with the out-breath. Staying with those changing sensations as we transition between the in-breath and the out-breath. And then from that focus of our sensations, we can just start to spread our awareness out through the whole body as if it's infusing the whole body, infusing into the shoulders, arms, into the hands, into the head, into our tummy, waist and legs, feet. So holding the whole body in awareness and then just broadening out to include the space all around you, any sounds, any thoughts, feelings, just letting it all be there. And getting a sense that here we are, wherever we are in our rooms, front rooms, in our bedrooms, but we're also together. We're also together, meditating with other people. In this joint effort of expanding our minds, expanding our hearts. So if you're happy to, just open your eyes, really engaging with what what's going on, which is now just for the time being it's me talking. Let's have a listen, let's have a look and see who's around. Hi Tom H is in Herne Hill. Hi Tom. Nick. Hi Nick. And Jill in Gypsy Hill. Hi Graham, Ladbroke Grove and West. Henry's here in Dorset. Tara in East Dulwich. Pam's there. Ruth in Lewisham. Chris is in Tulse Hill. Alison Plumstead. And there's Lo, Ballum, local. And Ben, Joe, Anna, and Alison, and Freddie. And Cheryl's just joined the party, last but not least. Cheryl's there with Wilson. Cheryl was joking that she might need to paint a face on a volleyball and call Wilson in this lockdown. But here we are, we're all amongst friends now. So all is all right. So good, I'm glad you're all here. I feel like it's a lot to get into tonight. It's a real subject that's really dear to my heart actually. So I hope I can do it justice. So we've been talking about these 5 hindrances, these 5 coverings, these 5 things that get in the way. We've been talking about them in terms of, I gave the overview last week of craving, ill will, restlessness, sloth and torpor, which is basically a kind of resistance, a low energy, kind of resistance to doing things, and doubt and indecision. So there's these 5 categories which Buddhism has developed to help identify these kind of states that are limited, that are not helping us, that are getting in the way, in fact, of what we really want. So today we're going to be looking at ill will, hatred, and traditionally thought of as what gets in the way of love or connection. So quite interestingly, there's a pairing here between craving, which is kind of hankering after what we want, a kind of compulsive hankering after what we don't have already in our experience, and ill will, which is in a way what we're thinking is getting in the way of happiness, what we don't want, what we don't like. Yeah. So this kind of push, kind of wanting and not wanting, are kind of paired here. So we will look at this aspect of it, of the not wanting, ill will, and it's mostly directed towards people, isn't it? If we're honest, sometimes we have a bit of ill will towards our computer if it's not working or something like that. But mostly it's people, isn't it? And what we're trying to determine is that kind of compulsive quality. So I've got a quote here. I really like this quote. This is from a very old, ancient kind of Buddhist text, I think 8th century, called From the Bodhicharyavatara. It goes like this. When the thorn of ill will is stuck in our heart, our mind can't find peace. We can't enjoy anything and we sleep badly. If we are twisted by ill will, even those who depend on us will want to bring us down. Even our friends won't want to know us. We can be as generous as we like, but no one will like us. To be blunt, there is just no way that an angry or resentful person can be happy. But the man or woman who defeats anger will be happy. So yeah, we could say the man or woman who defeats anger will be happy or will be in states of love, states of connection. So quite strong, strong quote. I haven't got time to go into all of that, but it's quite interesting, isn't it? We sleep badly, won't enjoy anything at all. Even our friends won't want to know us. To be blunt, there's just no way an angry and a resentful person can be happy. It's quite a strong statement. So we'll see if we can explore that, see if we think that's true. And as I say, later on, we'll have a chance to discuss that in the community lounge. So let's have a look at the term itself. So hatred is often translated as ill will. And it's quite self-explanatory, isn't it? It's a wish or will towards of ill towards oneself or another. And you know, over the years with teaching, I've had people suggest to me, often quite strongly, that they don't suffer from ill will. It's like they don't recognise it in their experience. And well, you see my response to that. I feel like that is a lack of mindfulness, because all we need to watch, we just need to watch our mind closely if someone jostles us getting onto a bus, especially at the moment, someone gets a bit too close, someone hasn't emptied the dishwasher, so on and so forth. Someone hasn't replied to our text as quickly as we like. Just that we catch the kind of tail end of ill will, and that's one end, of course, and then at the other end there's full blown hatred, just wishing this person just didn't exist. Yeah? So all these different manifestations. Interestingly, what falls in the remit of ill will is also blame, resentment, irritation and anger. So yeah, gosh, we could get into any of those. I'm interested to hear what you say later on, because I think we all have our favourite, don't we? But what happens with all these hindrances, that mindfulness is the starting point. Mindfulness, well, they work these hindrances because of their kind of unconscious, they're kind of under the level of our, the kind of subliminal, they're just operating under the level of our awareness. Kind of, you know what I mean? This whole kind of emotional thought complex that's kind of gathered momentum in our minds around something that's bothered us. And what's really interesting is it was so easy to rationalise, so easy to explain resentment away as something reasonable, to explain blame away as something quite reasonable. So that's one strategy, and then another way is just suppressing it. We just kind of paper over it and pretend, put on a face and just pretend that we're not seething inside. That's the British way. So we'll start to catch this state of ill will if we start to become clearer that it's not helpful in any way, that it's not going to help us in any way. That's really the only way that you can start tackling this kind of habitual tendency. So how will it not help us anyway? Well, externally, so if we're expressing blame, expressing, resentment and so on, they won't have a good result. I think we must have seen that in our own experience. You tend to kind of it tends to polarise, doesn't it? And the reason I think it polarises so quickly, if you lead into communication with a kind of backlog of ill will, what's driving it is ill will, is that our nervous systems are hardwired for fight or flight. Yeah, this is going right back to the first time that we've developed as vertebrates a nervous system that identifies what we want and what we don't want. And what we certainly don't want is ill will, because it's detected as threat. It's detected as threat, and we'll want to fight or flight. We'll want to push back, or we'll want to escape. We want to avoid what's been communicated. And so that's what happens, isn't it, when we start to kind of get into that externally. Internally, the inward dimension of that, so to speak, is that it just kind of blocks any ability to be in connection with people when we're in that state. We can't be in connection with people while we're in that state. It blocks love. So what it does then is it keeps us isolated. It can be quite an energized state. It's a kind of, we may have this kind of semblance of control. We know what's wrong. We know who's to blame, but it's keeping us isolated. And that's painful. It's keeping us out of connection. That's painful. So I want to be clear. I'm not saying we can't voice difference. Yeah, I think that's really, really important to be clear about. We can. The more loving we are, the more able we are actually to voice our concerns. But that communication, I'm arguing that communication is never going to be helped by ill will. So that quite earlier, so there's no way an angry, resentful person can be happy. Quite strong. And I think that slowly, as we start to investigate these for ourselves, we'll realise, we do it. We do it. It doesn't help. It's painful. It blocks states of connection and love, and it's not necessary or not even useful for effective communication. And there's nearly always somebody that says our anger is actually really helpful in getting things done. I've not got the scope, unfortunately, to go into that particular argument now, but that's something that we could look at in the community lounge a bit later on. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be exploring the opposite of ill will. We're going to be cultivating love. We're going to be cultivating loving kindness. We're going to be doing the metta bhavana together in the 5 stages. What those 5 stages are, but I'll just outline them very quickly. You don't need to worry too much about this, because I'll be guiding us through this meditation. So I'll be just introducing each stage. But very, very concisely, what we do is in the first stage, we direct metta or loving kindness, friendliness towards ourselves. Next stage, we develop towards somebody that are a friend of ours, somebody we have a connection with. We can bring them to mind and wish them well. Then somebody that we don't feel strongly for. They don't show up strongly on our radar. We call that a neutral person. So they don't, but somebody that we might know from work or in the neighbourhood, neighbour, maybe distant family, somebody that doesn't show up strongly. And we bring them to mind, we wishing them well. Then comes somebody that we call, it's traditionally called the enemy stage, somebody that we are struggling with, someone that we have difficult feelings for, and we bring them to mind, and we see if, despite what's going on, we can still bring to bear metta. Bearing in mind what I was saying earlier, that any communication is only eased, it's only kind of lubricated through metta. It's never, it's only going to help us to polarize, to keep strengthening that defended position. So we bring in that enemy stage, so-called, to work with somebody we find difficult. Final stage, we bring everybody together, and I'm going to kind of teach that in a kind of slightly new way tonight, so just keep an eye out for that. Basically, we're just going to be feeling metta as a kind of force that we're neither doing, we're just kind of opening up to. So we bring all the people to mind that we've just spent time with, and then there'll be a way of just extending that metta outwards, which I'll guide us through in that final stage. So ultimately that is metta towards all beings. So in relation to the person in each stage, how do we know if that hindrance is not present, that hindrance of ill will? We'll know it's not present because there'll be a feeling of, the feeling of love or connection, of metta, is inherently satisfying. We know what satisfaction feels like, and that's one way of knowing that we're in the right zone. It doesn't necessarily need to show up as a very strong emotion. It doesn't need to be very Hollywood with fanfares and soft focus. It doesn't need to be dramatic, but it has an inherently satisfying quality. And if that's the case, we just dwell in that. We just allow we bring our attention to that and allow that to unfold. Because we don't need to go looking for the hindrances. That's really important to say. We don't need to go hunting for the hindrance of ill will. We just need to recognise whether it's present. If it's not present, that's fine. Trust me, it will emerge at some other time. We don't need to dig around. Yeah. So there's this kind of quite honest kind of process of just saying, is that hindrance present? And how do we know if it is present? How do we know if this hindrance of ill will is present? Well, we'll feel, in whatever stage I'm guiding us in, we'll feel blocked or resistant. We'll feel blocked or resistant to feeling metta. We may notice a story, a kind of a narrative unfolding about why this person, including maybe ourselves, is not worthy of metta, and that can be quite subtle. So you can just notice that if there's a story kind of revs up about this person, which could include ourselves, about basic reason why we don't deserve metta. Physically, there may be a kind of a tension. We may just feel tense, uncomfortable. That could be anywhere on the spectrum of quite kind of really tight and uncomfortable, or quite subtle tension. And we're unlikely to be able to settle. The mental activity of ill will is inherently inflammatory, unsettling. Yeah. So, if it's not present, the hindrance, there we go. We just feel the satisfaction of what's happening. We just give our attention to that. If it is present, we can recognise that potentially because we feel blocked or resistant. There's a story going on, or there's a lot of physical, mental kind of activity, so to speak, tension. So keep relaxing. This is really, really important. We're going to just keep relaxing at each stage. Keep settling that nervous system down. Just keep calming down. In a way, subduing that kind of fight or flight mechanism. Just settling down. And we're not going to try and force anything to happen. We're not going to try and force anything to happen in our experience. Yeah? Trust me, it's just enough to do the practice, just enough to follow me through the prompts of the stages and the guided exploration. That's enough. Don't need to force an experience. Yeah? So let's keep relaxing and don't try and force anything to happen. So there we go. There's a lot more I could have said about this, but I think that's enough to just get us started and get us ready in the zone for a session of the Metta Bhavana. So let's set ourselves up for meditation. So as soon as we've closed the eyes in our meditation posture, you just tune straight into the body, straight into the sensations of the body, what we can experience directly, whether that's pleasant or unpleasant or doesn't show up particularly strongly. We can feel our body. And we can feel again, we can feel that contact with the ground, our groundedness. We can trust that. We can allow the lower body just to sink, to relax into that groundedness. And letting the upper body rise energetically up from that grounded state, softening the shoulders, softening the eyes, around the mouth, bringing our attention down to the heart center. Noticing in the same way whatever sensations are present in the heart center. And getting ready for a session of the Metta Bhavana. This first stage, directing metta towards ourselves, just calming down. Just feeling calm, just allowing the nervous system to calm down. Just noticing any tension in the body. Seeing if we can release that tension. Developing this sense of well-wishing for whatever's going on in our experience. Calming down. And just recognizing any ease that we can identify. Is there any physical tension there? Any stories going on about ourselves, about what's going on? Just accepting that, letting that be there. Is there any blockages, any resistance? Including that in the metta. how the physical experience is relaxed, at ease. These stories are just brought into our awareness, not exempt from the metta. Any resistance or blockages softening. Any hindrance of ill will. Oh no, it's just metta. Just giving attention to any sense of opening. Not forcing. And entering into that space, a good friend, someone we have a good connection with, bringing this person to mind. Wishing them well. Is there any physical tension? Just softening. Any stories about this person getting in the way? Just letting that go. Any resistance? Oh no, it's just metta. Giving attention to any opening. No force, no forcing. Just calming down. Allowing your good friend to fade away and bringing into the space a neutral person, someone that doesn't show up strongly in our preference. Whoever comes to mind, that's the right person, and getting a sense of them, getting them up close, so to speak. Wishing them well. Any physical tension? Softening. Any story playing about this person, just letting go. Any resistance at all? Oh no. Just metta. Staying with it. Any sense of opening? No force. Just relaxing into the metta. And letting go of the neutral person. Bring into mind somebody that we're finding difficult. Don't be worried, bringing them to mind. Getting a sense of them. And without papering over your differences, wishing them well. Softening any physical tension. Noticing any stories, any blame. Softening the resistance. It doesn't do us any good. Just opening to the metta. No forcing. Staying at ease in the body. Gathering everybody together that we've just been bringing to mind. Our good friend, the neutral person, so-called difficult person, ourselves. Is there metta present? Inhabiting, as it were, a field of metta. Being metta. And as it were, releasing the screen from in front, just allowing the metta to extend in the front. Moving the screen from the right hand side, extending metta in that direction. Removing the screen from behind, extending metta behind. And to the left hand side. And above. And below. Just as far as the metta wants to extend, just allowing metta to extend out in these directions. Wishing well to all beings, letting go any resistance, softening. And now just letting go any effort at all. Feeling yourself grounded, contact with the ground, stable. And noticing we're meditating all together. Okay, good. So, of course, we might start to be wondering, oh, where is this hindrance? Is this familiar? Where do I experience that in my meditation? Where do I experience that in my life? How do I work with that? These are going to be questions we're going to bring into the community lounge, but we've got a little time now just to explore that. If anybody wants to put a comment in the chat or question, then yeah, please do. But in time on a tradition, I might start off with Jack, if he's got anything.
Before the meditation, you were talking about this fight or flight mentality that happens if you're coming into an encounter with ill will.
Mm-hmm.
What I struggle with is if I have a disagreement with someone or something difficult that I need to bring up, I find it hard to get that to kind of not say the confrontation, without kind of diluting it. I want to say my undiluted piece without having that fight or flight. And what I find is I either kind of tip into belligerence or I just give a kind of, I don't really say my piece in the way that I want to, and I just kind of back out of it. And I guess there's a skill there that I'm kind of missing in being able to say your piece and stand behind, back yourself, but without that fight or flight kind of panic.
Yeah, so you're saying from your perspective to engage in communication, because I was talking about from the perspective of receiving communication that's kind of that's come to you with a wave of ill will, how you want to kind of either push back against it or avoid it and kind of slip away because it's difficult, painful. So. But you're saying from the aspect of when one wants to deliver or get into some communication, there's been some hurt there or something that you've upset you, and you want to both express that fully, but you don't want to tip into either belligerence and antagonism, or neither do you want to kind of paper it over it and kind of slightly temper what you're saying so that it doesn't feel like it actually represents what you feel and think. Yeah. So it's really good, isn't it? God, it's such an art. It really is such an art. I think it's a real art. I mean, I think there are some basic kind of ways into that. I mean, the first thing I would say, and it's not always possible, I know, but it is to kind of have worked through it oneself, often in meditation, at least until one's kind of clear of the emotional kind of content, if you see what I mean, without trying to get rid of the emotional content. You're just kind of clear that you feel very strongly in this area, and yet you've already started to kind of make it a little bit more malleable, a bit more flexible. You've kind of explored it a little bit. You've explored where the hurt is and where the concern is, if you see what I mean. So you've kind of you've pre-digested it a little bit at least, right? Because going in hot, that's a real difficult one. Yeah. So a bit of pre-digestion is, that's really kind of helpful, isn't it? It's kind of like you've done a bit of the work already. But nonetheless, when you approach the communication, there's usually some feelings of kind of tension and tightness entering in. Maybe the heat returns as you start to mull it over in your mind, the bone of contention. So I think it's really important to inhabit. That's where the meditation's such a lifesaver, because you can, I think, the more you've meditated, the more you can inhabit your body. So you can be in a body that's kind of tight. You can recognise the tightness. You can feel it. You can feel the heat, so in a way you're kind of owning all of that. If you're owning it, then you can say it more cleanly. I think you can just say, look, I'm really bothered about this thing. You know what I mean? Like, you can emphasise the really if you want to, without that tipping into ill will. You can just express a force of emotion without saying, getting the finger out. So I think people, when it works and you're able to pre-digest, if that is an available choosing option, and then you go in, you're very aware of what your body's feeling like and the tension that might be developing around the subject as it goes to become broached. If you can hold all of that and also say that you are really concerned, that you have been really bothered, even that you've been really upset by something, in my experience, it tends to go well. Because it's people both take it seriously, but also they're unarmed in a way. They're disarmed by your kind of emotional honesty, if you see what I mean. They're also disarmed by the fact that you're able to broach that without the finger, So that's how I kind of try and approach things. There's courage involved, isn't there? I think there's a genuine courage required to still give the full fat version and not dumb it down, not kind of superficialise, trivialise, try to, in a way, almost protect the other person. Really, you're trying to protect yourself from difficult communication, but that kind of niceness or papering over, that may not show up strongly enough on that other person's register for you to have a proper conversation about, because they won't understand the depth of the communication, if you see what I mean. So I think it is up to us to actually express the full fat version without tipping into belligerence, and without kind of holding on to the reins too much for fear of where it may go, with the fear of the uncertainty of entering into that zone, in a way, of genuine communication. exciting zone in a way. The only real zone of real communication is one of uncertainty in a certain way. Any follow-up thoughts on that, Jack? What I was saying there?
No, I think you're right. My tendency is definitely to paper over because, yeah, I just really don't like hurting people's feelings. You know. But sometimes sometimes that's very short-sighted. To try and save someone's feelings by basically, it's a form of lying, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in a way, it's a form of manipulating the situation to not get into genuine communication. I mean, I think it's difficult if one doesn't do it, one doesn't enter into genuine communication and say what one's really feeling, thinking, if it's appropriate to do so, because you don't give the other person the platform to respond in kind, if you see what I mean. So we pick up subliminal messages all the time. Was it something like 80% of what we pick up is our 78% of what we pick up is non-verbal. People aren't even our kids. They pick up what we're like. So if we don't say what's actually going on, there's no genuine platform for communication. So in a way, there can't be a meeting of mind, and we aren't going to get a resolution in the way we want, in the way we yearn for, because that's what's going to bring us back in connection. So I think in a way it doesn't, holding back often doesn't work either. Anyway, plenty to mull over on this one, no question, in the community lounge. So this is just a point of view, I say, give to what you love. We need time, energy, resources and finances to reach people with the Dharma, reach people with the tools to open heart and mind. Gosh, doesn't it? The world needs that now. The world really needs that now. People need that. People what make up the world. Individuals is what make up the world, and they need... if you feel like you've been benefited by this, you can be sure that you're much more similar to other people than you think. So they will also can also be moved. So we need time, energy, resources, but we need finances to keep reaching out, keep trying new projects, new ways of reaching out to reach people through retreats, courses, classes, study groups. So do give generously if you can. We suggest £10 wage, £5 unwaged, but you can give anything that you are moved to do so, and the links are in the chat. So for now, just click on the community lounge button. You'll just be then put into the waiting room. You can go for tea, a cup of tea, go for a toilet break, and then at 8:45 the room's going to open for the second half discussion. Okay.